So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I love talking about things, movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. So, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues is, you've guessed it, a sequel to the first Spinal Tap, simply titled This is Spinal Tap, which came out in 1984. That's right, the first Spinal Tap film came out that long ago. And in the words of the Blues Brothers, they got the band back together. That's right, they got the band, they got the team from the original Spinal Tap movie back together to make this film. So you have Rob Reiner returning to direct this film. If you don't know already, Rob Reiner has directed such classics, get this, such classics as the first Spinal Tap, of course, Stand By Me, which is brilliant, Misery, brilliant, When Harry Met Sally, fantastic, The Princess Bride, which a lot of people love, A Few Good Men, fantastic, and The American President, which I haven't seen but a lot of people also love, and so on. Rob Reiner has directed many cinematic classics, and I do think that sometimes he is one of the most underrated directors. I mean, this is the same guy who has directed When Harry Met Sally, which is often regarded as the best rom-com of all time, and he also directed Spinal Tap, the original Spinal Tap, and he also directed Stand By Me. You know, he's got range as a director, and he directed Misery as well, which is so good. Rob Reiner is a brilliant director, and he is returning. He returned in the director's chair for this film. Plus, you have the actors who played the band members returning to play their roles in this film again. So you have Christopher Guest back as Nigel Tufnell, Michael McKean back as David St. Hubbins, and Harry Shearer back as Derek Smalls. And side note here, Harry Shearer, people don't know this already, he voices many iconic characters on The Simpsons. He voices the likes of Mr. Burns, Mr. Smithers, Kent Brookman, Reverend Lovejoy, there's loads more that Principal Skinner is another big character on The Simpsons that he voices. Yeah, Harry Shearer, if people don't know already, he voices loads of characters on The Simpsons. So I heard some of these Simpsons voices coming through when I was watching this film at the cinema yesterday. And so yeah, you've got the main core cast. The core cast who play the members of Spinal Tap returning to this film as well, and you have Rob Reiner returning as a documentarian in this film too. Like, if people don't know already, not only did Rob Reiner direct the original Spinal Tap, he's also in it. It's a sort of meta film because, yes, he directed it, and you actually see him as the movie director in that film. He's making a documentary about Spinal Tap in the first Spinal Tap, and he returns as the same documentarian in this film. So yes, this film has the same sort of mockumentary style as the original Spinal Tap, and I was looking forward to this film quite a bit. I'm not the biggest Spinal Tap fan by any means. I was shown the film about 5 or 6 or 7 years ago by my dad, who's sadly no longer with us, and I didn't know what to expect. I'd heard of Spinal Tap, but that was about it. And I remember watching the film and thinking, am I watching a real life documentary on a band? And then I couldn't believe how much I was laughing. And when I heard they were making a sequel, I was like, oh, is it going to work? I'm not sure. But then I heard Rob Reiner was returning as a director. I was like, okay, there's something there. Rob Reiner is a great director. And although, has he directed any good films in the past 20 years? I'm not sure. I might be wrong there, but I might be forgetting a film which he has directed in the past 20 years, which got a lot of love, but I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, which isn't a good thing. But still, we had Rob Reiner returning as a director, and you've got the main core cast returning. And I also heard, because this has been highly publicised, it's not a spoiler, it's been highly publicised in the press for this movie, that there were going to be some big cameos from famous artists. And yes, they are in this film. Elton John himself made a cameo in this movie and makes a cameo in this film. And Paul McCartney Yes, one of the Beatles, and if you can't tell already, I'm a huge Beatles fan. I've got an Abbey Road poster up there. I've got an Abbey Road Star Wars t-shirt on for this review today. I've got loads of the Beatles memorabilia in this room. Not sure if you can see it. Yes, I'm a huge Beatles fan. So when I heard that Paul McCartney was going to make a cameo in this film, I was very interested. I was like, okay, Elton John, who I absolutely love. I love Elton John. And Paul McCartney, who's one of my favourite artists out there. Still working and still going strong. I saw him live. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last year. I saw him live and he was absolutely magnificent. I saw Elton John live 2 years ago and he was also magnificent. But Paul McCartney, I mean, he was still rocking and rolling all over the stage. And he played so many of his classic songs. It was amazing. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. Yeah, when I heard that Elton John and Paul McCartney, two of my favourite singer-songwriters, were going to be in this film, I immediately got more excited and more interested in seeing what this film could be like. And the Google plot synopsis for this film goes as follows. Documentarian Marty DeBerge, once again played by Rob Reiner in this film, follows estranged Spinal Tap band members David St. Hubbins, Nigel Tufnell and Derek Smalls as they search for a drummer and prepare for a reunion concert in New Orleans. Joined by music royalty Paul McCartney and Elton John, Spinal Tap wrestles with their checkered past to put on a show that they hope will solidify their place in the pantheon of rock and roll. And here's the thing about this film. I went to go and watch this on Monday morning. You know, Monday morning is Monday morning. It's the worst morning of the week. I went to go and watch this on Monday morning. I was tired. I wasn't feeling 100%. And the tram ride and the bus ride to the cinema were not the funnest of things. And I went into the cinema and I heard a couple of negative things about this film from critics and film pundits that I follow online who had said this film wasn't great. So I went into the cinema kind of ready to be disappointed, hoping the film was going to be great, hoping I was going to laugh my head off, but also I was ready to be underwhelmed, kind of like I was with the Naked Gun reboot, which came out this year. Yeah, I was ready to be disappointed in the same way I was by Naked Gun when I went to go and watch this film, and I sat there in the film with my arms crossed, as like, okay, let's see what the Spinal Tap sequel is going to be like, because I haven't heard great things, I'm not expecting much, and honestly, I'm not quite sure why they made this film. But then, about half an hour into the movie, I was sat there and I was like, I'm actually enjoying this. And you know what? I'm not just enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this. And I'm laughing. I'm chuckling a lot, but I'm also laughing out loud. And I'm having a really good time watching this film. It's not as good as the original Spinal Tap. Obviously. I mean, I haven't seen the original Spinal Tap in about 5 or 6 or 7 years, but the thing is, I still remember a lot about it, and it's not as good as the original Spinal Tap. Obviously, you weren't expecting it to be. But at the same time, it's funny. And it's got this heartfelt nature about it as well, which I kind of didn't expect. The film is about reconnecting with those that we were once close to in our earlier lives. And I think the film has a good enough focus on that to keep you engaged, to keep you emotionally engaged. Plus, it is enjoyable watching these characters back. And there is something about all of these characters, all of the Spinal Tap members, and Rob Reiner's documentarian character, which is endearing, and which you want to see more of, and you want to see more of these characters. You want to see what happens to them, and you want them to reconnect and have this great reunion concert. And yeah, I was just sat in the cinema watching this film, not expecting much. I sat down in the that's the thing. I sat down in the cinema to watch this film, and I didn't expect much, but actually, I came out the cinema with a spring in my step. It's by no means a great film, and it has a lot of shortcomings, for sure. But I can excuse a lot of its shortcomings because it's a comedy movie which made me laugh, and it made me laugh a hell of a lot, more than I expected it to. Not all the jokes work, which is, you kind of expect from a comedy movie. And if I remember correctly from my viewing experience watching the first Spinal Tap, all the comedy works for me in that movie. So, yet again, I was kind of expecting all the comedy to work, and my expectations were met there. Not all the comedy worked in the film. There was one fart joke which I thought really didn't work, but a lot of the comedy did work. More comedy worked in this film for me than worked in the Naked Gun reboot remake, which came out this year. And I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on the Naked Gun remake, which came out this year, by the way. It wasn't for me, and I understand that a lot of people love that movie, but I just thought it was so disappointing. However, in the case of this film, I sat there in the cinema, and again, I was laughing so much more than I expected to. There were so many jokes which, just made me smile and made me chuckle, and some made me laugh out loud, is what he said. The scene with Paul McCartney, I think, is absolutely hilarious. Now, I may have bias because I'm a huge Beatles fan, but I didn't think that the scene with Elton John was nearly as funny as the scene with Paul McCartney. And I love Elton John as well, so you can argue I have bias with Elton John, but I just didn't think the scene with him was as good. But the scene with Paul McCartney was fantastic. I was laughing out loud. I'm not going to spoil what the joke is, but essentially, he comes into the recording studio where the Spinal Tap members are working on their song. They're practicing, and Paul McCartney offers him some tips, and then one of the Spinal Tap members doesn't like what he says, and then he goes to a talking head interview with that Spinal Tap member that's not liking what he said. But it's David St. Hubbins, that's the Spinal Tap member. He doesn't like what Paul McCartney says, and he's asked by the documentarian played by Rob Reiner. He says, "So what do you think of working with Paul McCartney? He's one of the Beatles. I'm sure you dreamt about working with him from a young age." And then David St. Hubbins goes, "Well, actually, he was a bit toxic." Which, if you know Paul McCartney, you've read stuff about Paul McCartney, he's the complete opposite. He's like the nicest man in music. He's often regarded as that anyway. So yeah, I thought that whole scene, I haven't even spoiled the best jokes in that scene, by the way. It's so funny. I mean, that is one of the best jokes in that scene, but there's some other fantastic jokes in the whole Paul McCartney scene, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. And there are many other great comedic scenes throughout the film. It was far funnier than I expected it to be. It really was. And that saved a lot of the film for me. Because again, it has its issues. And it doesn't reach the same heights as the original Spinal Tap. And sometimes it does feel like a greatest hits of the original Spinal Tap with the jokes that it pulls. But I sat there with a smile on my face watching this film. I was laughing. I was enjoying seeing these characters again. I thought it was well made. I thought the documentary style was upheld very well with this movie. And I had a really good time watching it. I wouldn't say it's a really good film, but I'd also say it's a lot better than some people are giving it credit for. Sometimes when you get these sequels to comedies many years later, they just don't work. I mean, for the sake of sound like a broken record, I didn't think the Naked Gun reboot worked till this year, but I do think that the Spinal Tap sequel works, and I honestly didn't think I was going to. Maybe I enjoyed watching it so much because I was in a cinema that was about a quarter full, but was full of Spinal Tap fans. You could just tell people were laughing their heads off while I was watching this in the cinema. Perhaps that actually helped me laugh too, because I have spoken about this. When I go to watch a comedy in the cinema, sometimes I feel kind of like the odd one out when I'm laughing. I don't like often watching comedies in the cinema. It just doesn't sit with me. I feel it's kind of awkward. I don't know if anyone else feels like that. Maybe it's just me, but I was sat there watching Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, and not only was I laughing, but other people in my cinema laughing, so perhaps that helped enhance my experience as well. But the simple thing is, for me, this film worked. I had a good time watching it. I enjoyed seeing this character back. It made me laugh, and it's got a good heart to it. It's got a good heart, and it's got some good messages and good themes surrounding reconnecting and forgetting what happened in the past, letting the past stay in the past, and just enjoying what you have now, and enjoying being with those you're close to, and reconnecting with those you've been close to for such a long time, who maybe you've disconnected from, and now you get a chance to reconnect to. So yeah, I didn't expect to, but I enjoyed this film. And that is why I am going to say that Spinal Tap 2 2, The End Continues. I'm going to say it's a 7 out of 10. I don't know what critics are complaining about. This was kind of, I think, the best version of a Spinal Tap sequel we could have gotten. I know they have done some things here and there over the past, well, ever since the release of the first Spinal Tap film. I know they have played concerts like Glastonbury and Wembley, which you do see footage of in this movie. But seeing them again in this film, it was just something about it which... just the charm of Spinal Tap was there again. It felt like a Spinal Tap movie. And in all the ways you wanted it to. And I did think the new additions worked as well. Chris Addison, as his manager, who doesn't like music, but is working with Spinal Tap, I thought he worked well. You know, and the other one who's managing the band in this film, forgot the actress' name is now, but she was in Afterlife. Yeah, she's really good in the film too. Yeah, it made me laugh. It made me laugh, and for that reason I excuse a lot of its shortcomings. It's not great, it's not as good as the first Spinal Tap, but I think it's a far better sequel to Spinal Tap than a lot of people are giving it credit for. And it has many, many funny moments. Many moments where you're just chuckling, but there are some moments as well which are absolute laugh out loud hilarious. And particularly the scene with Paul McCartney, which I was absolutely dying watching. You know, this is the sort of comedy I like. The comedy in this film is a sort of comedy I like. And it's not going to be for everybody, the sort of comedy in this film, but it was for me. And you know what, I'd even say this, it's the last thing I'll say, because I know I've been rambling on a bit. It's the last thing I'll say. You don't have to watch the first Spinal Tap film in order to understand this film. I actually think this film does a good job of introducing Spinal Tap to a new audience. Granted, it's called Spinal Tap 2, so the implication is if you're watching this film, you've watched the first Spinal Tap, but you don't have to watch the first Spinal Tap in order to understand this film. I think you'll still have a good time if you haven't seen the first Spinal Tap. You get the point I'm making. I enjoyed this film. It made me laugh, it made me smile, and I thought it had a good heart to it as well. And so, for all those reasons, as I've already said, as I'm going to say once more in this podcast today, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, is a 7 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please click down below and like and subscribe on this video. And look forward to many more videos and many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.